The chosen one. Tonight, the dam cracks. Tonight, someone who helped arrange the most intricate character assassination effort against you is going to crumble under the weight of their own lies. They are besieged and desperate, and the only way out is to reveal the truth. They had been choking for months. What they had thought was a masterpiece of deception is soon to crumble into an admission of corruption. But the narrative does not begin with their breakup. It starts with you being calm and undisturbed. They created while standing in the eye of the cyclone, watching their world crumble around them. While you stay untouchable, you had been playing chess while they were playing checkers. They are just now discovering that they never had control over the board. To appreciate the scope of what is to come, we must first study the brain behind it. This is not someone who fell into dishonesty. This is someone who inhales manipulation like air. Their lives revolves on creating fake realities and watching others dance to those created facts. When they first saw you, they saw something that horrified them. Authentic power, not power derived from compulsion or control, but the sort that emanates from someone who understands who they are and refuses to compromise their identity for anybody. Your sheer presence posed a challenge to their house of cards because genuine people recognize real, and they were aware that they were counterfeit. So they did exactly what master manipulators do. They researched you not to understand you, but to discover opportunities to strike. They recorded how you moved across the globe, who you trusted, and what was important to you. Create a psychological profile, identifying weaknesses, preparing for a conflict you had no idea was coming. Their idea was brilliant because of its intricacy. They did not depend on one basic untruth. They spun a complex web of half-truths, purposeful omissions, and blatant fabrications to portray you as everything you were not. If you were generous, they called you manipulating. If you were confident, they referred to you as arrogant. If you succeeded, they portrayed you as corrupt. But here's something they didn't foresee. Their fixation with destroying you would become the source of their own downfall. Every time they spent telling falsehoods about you was a moment they weren't repairing their own eroding foundation. They grew so focused on planning your collapse that they failed to strengthen their own position. And while they honed the tale, their lives silently fell apart. Their strategies extended well beyond mere chatter and petty slander. This was slow-motion psychological warfare with an adept campaign designed to inflict harm. They discovered how to weaponize your generosity. When you gave folks the benefit of the doubt, they called you naive. When you attempted to keep connections alive despite developing friction, people labeled your attempts as manipulating or desperate. The genius specialized in changing goalposts, setting unattainable standards that altered the instant you attempted to fulfill them. Do something ordinary, and they'd inflate it into an offense, then impose a new regulation that retrospectively made your normal conduct seem like a violation. The whole technique was designed to make you question yourself, keeping you off balance and reactive rather than calm, attentive, and smart. What made their campaign so toxic was how they used community dynamics to accentuate every untruth. They did not just whisper falsehoods. They created echo chambers in which the message could bounce around and acquire fake authority via repetition. They realized that if enough people told the same narrative, it would start to seem like reality to anybody who wasn't paying careful attention. The foreshadowing was always there for those who understood how to interpret the signs. They talked about you with too much conviction. The stories were comprehensive enough to seem convincing while remaining obscure enough to elude verification. The emotions seemed somewhat staged rather than genuine. You recognized those indications because you were selected. You notice what others miss. Pay attention to the second character in this story, since their motivation was the most rudimentary and hence the most deadly. This individual did not join the campaign for strategic reasons or financial benefit. They joined because your presence forced them to face everything they were not and could never be. Jealousy is an unusual, destructive energy. It needs the envious individual to continue to see their target's superiority. Every morning, they awoke to face the reality. You had something they badly desired but couldn't have. Your effortless charisma, authentic confidence, the way you evoke true respect and appreciation. Instead, use that awareness into motivation for self-improvement. They chose annihilation. If they couldn't have what you had, They would see you deprived of it. They would bring you down to their level, even if it meant damaging their own soul in the process. That guy became the rumor mill's motor, a willing propagator of every untruth. The genius created using jealousy as a weapon and loyalty as a deception. They added their own touches to the narrative, their perception of your behavior. Their own venom was put into the tale. They were not just repeating falsehoods. They were upgrading them, sharpening the edges. As a result, the lies sliced deeper, embellished with details that made them seem credible and terrible. The lovely irony is that their envy made them ignorant to their own truth. So determined to knock you down, they failed to see that they were being utilized as pawns in someone else's game. The genius required their excitement and desire to get their hands filthy, but he had no intention of sharing any real power, credit, or reward. Watch for symptoms of increased desperation, such as louder and more frantic efforts to persuade people of your supposed crime, and a decreasing circle as others begin to see through their fixation. They will learn the hard way that envy is a poison that kills the vessel in which it resides. Even more bizarre was their determination to break bridges and sacrifice connections to fuel the campaign, cutting off common acquaintances who refused to participate. They undermined their own credibility by becoming more obsessed and unreasonable, and relishing every perceived setback in your life while falsely pretending to be a victim. The paradox shows the reality about their motivation. They were not seeking justice. They were looking for the strange gratification of seeing someone they envied suffer. Then there came the most frustrating player of all, the person who knew better yet remained silent. They had access to information that may have cleared your name quickly. They have the moral authority to speak up and stop the falsehoods. However, they remained silent since your elimination accomplished their aims. Whether to further an agenda, defend a viewpoint, or just avoid the inconvenience of adopting a stance, they preferred acquiescence over boldness. That quiet rendered them just as guilty as the loudest accuser, and their decision will be part of the reckoning that eventually exposes the whole conspiracy. They relished the drama and turmoil that surrounded the fake story. They were just too weak to resist the torrent of falsehoods, prioritizing self-preservation above justice. Their silence was never neutral. Each day they remained silent was another day. They permitted lies to masquerade as fact. Every discussion in which they failed to defend you evolved into an active participation in your character assassination. Silence has a way of turning into complicity, which hardens into guilt. For months, their guilt has been eating away at them. As they watched you suffer under allegations, they might have ceased creating the pressure that is now on the verge of erupting. Their internal struggle has risen to a climax because they are caught between opposing loyalties and self-interest on one side. They realize that speaking out is the correct thing to do. On the other hand, they are scared of the consequences, both from the conspirators who anticipated their silence and from you, who may never forgive them for not acting sooner. They underestimated how hard it would be to maintain the act of neutrality. Every talk became a delicate ballet of deflection. Every encounter with you bore the weight of a hidden truth, and each passing day added another layer to the accumulating humiliation. They are realizing that complicity needs ongoing exertion to sustain, but truth requires none. The first fracture in their meticulously maintained veneer appeared when you stopped playing the role they required you to play. They expected you to become emotional, reactive, and sensitive because these behaviors would provide them with ammo and reason. Instead, you took a step back and saw with the calm clarity of someone who is grounded in their own reality, becoming an observer rather than a participant. That adjustment shook their whole operation, sending ripples through the deception apparatus and revealing the weakness behind the surface. The genius couldn't figure out why their psychological warfare was failing. The jealous accomplice couldn't understand why you didn't crumble under the strain. And the quiet facilitator started to question if they were genuinely on the right side of the war. Your transformation from victim to spectator altered everything. Suddenly, you weren't playing by their rules. You stopped giving them the emotions they needed to support their tale. You weakened manipulation by being unpredictable. Unpredictable cities are the enemy of control, and your reluctance to perform destabilized the whole enterprise. You started to notice contradictions between various accounts of events, as well as the cooperation behind supposedly independent sources. And those linked dots showed the full extent of the plot against you. More crucially, you began to see fissures within their coalition. The masterminds are becoming more frustrated with their collaborators' failure, the jealous person's rising animosity at being exploited as a tool, and the quiet enablers' growing guilt over their passivity. Pressure grew until an explosion seemed unavoidable. This is when you became your chosen nature, not a victim of their machinations, but a force for truth. Their lives couldn't endure your presence, and genuine strength started to shake the fake edifice they'd built around you. Something moved, causing everything to unravel. The masterminds had overestimated their abilities. Greed drove them to go their web of lies too far. They offered incentives to accomplices, but never intended to deliver. Allow other schemes to go unchecked and expand their activities into places they couldn't control when their other corrupt businesses met with this campaign against you. The expense of perpetuating the falsehood became overwhelming. Their first success fueled their ambition. And since their depravity was interwoven, as one thread faltered, the whole tapestry started to unravel. The initial indicators were obvious: jealous accomplices, simmering rage over an anticipated payoff that never materialized, the growing awareness that they may have been exploited. The quiet enablers became more panicked as remorse morphed into the realization that their silence had earned them nothing but liability. They had assumed neutrality would protect them, only to learn that it had rendered them complicit. Worst of all, the mastermind's carefully guarded secrets began to emerge. Promises were not kept. They needed to disassociate themselves from some partnerships, as well as the fact that someone had outmaneuvered them, maybe by using their own techniques against them. The weight of maintaining several falsehoods, deceitful relationships, and a developing web of false narratives had become too much to bear. And now the collapse was approaching. Their carefully crafted kingdom of falsehoods is disintegrating, and their co-conspirators are turning against them. The same lack of loyalty and integrity that they used against others is now being aimed upon them by their own supporters. A magnificent, unavoidable justice stemming from their own creation. By developing connections based on dishonesty and short-term benefit, they ensured that those relationships would break under the weight of contradiction as their reality imploded. Observe how their behavior changes. The mastermind becomes more violent and irresponsible. Mistakes start to appear. Inconsistencies arise in prior claims, and indications of manipulation are visible where there was previously just cautious concealment. At the same moment, the jealous accomplice realizes they were pawns in someone else's game. Their desire to destroy you turns into wrath at being manipulated. They begin to doubt the tales and promises that lured them in. The silent facilitator can no longer bear the repercussions of their inactivity. Each fresh piece of evidence increases the guilt, and the urge to alleviate it becomes excruciating. When corruption becomes the glue that holds connections together, the ties dissolve as soon as the cost surpasses the reward. Honor among criminals turns out to be a fallacy. The foreshadowing that runs throughout their journey has finally reached a crescendo, despite the fact that every contradiction, every question, and crack in their unified front has been leading up to one inevitable moment. Someone will shatter the stillness, and when they do, the house of cards will collapse in dramatic manner. The individual going to speak has been imprisoned by their own actions, and the only way out is via confession. This will not be a calculated strategic revelation. It will be raw and desperate, a fight for self-preservation that will bring everyone else into the spotlight. When a manipulator eventually crumbles, they seldom provide a clean answer. They unloaded everything. Years of repressed guilt, hatred against co-conspirators, and dread of being exposed will disclose previously concealed relationships, betrayals, and petty agendas. Their confession will reveal the actual magnitude of the conspiracy, including how many individuals were involved, how long it was planned, how systematic and organized they were, how they created proof, and how they duped whole towns into believing their lies. More damningly, it will reveal the basic human impulses behind the scheme. Petty envy, cold calculation, cowardice, and a complete lack of integrity. As these realities emerge, the social environment around you will change rapidly. Those who formerly regarded you with distrust will recall your merits. Those who believe the falsehoods will quickly separate themselves from the liars. The narrative created to support your alleged guilt will crumble and rearrange around your demonstrated innocence. Those who saw the drama develop will be able to see clearly who caused it and why. The beauty of truth is that once it starts flowing, there is no high wall or sturdy container that can stop it. It crept through the gaps of every well-planned falsehood, soaking the ground until the whole foundation of lies crumbled. The initial confession will not be whispered. It will be like opening a floodgate, releasing a deluge of information that no one can control. And once the first voice breaks the stillness, others will follow suit. Not out of goodness, but out of desperation. Each conspirator will seek to defend themselves by exposing their accomplices in deceit, anxious to reduce their own culpability while exaggerating the guilt of others. The envious accomplice consumes, disgraced by having been exploited, and turns on the mastermind with a wrath sharper than any sword. They will leak private talks, disclose concealed messages, and provide proof of intentional cooperation. What seemed to be righteous rage will now be revealed as cold calculation. Their resentment will drive their treachery, and in that treachery, the web of falsehoods will unravel strand by strand. Meanwhile, the quiet facilitator will succumb to the crushing weight of guilt. Every restless night, every moment spent seeing injustice while saying nothing, has tightened the noose around their conscience. When the strain gets great, they will reveal everything, admitting what they knew when they knew it, and how their silence enabled falsehoods to pass as fact. Their confession will focus on survival rather than bravery, a frantic effort to free themselves of the guilt that has consumed them from inside. Even the genius, who previously felt in complete control, will soon find himself alone and exposed, forced into a corner. They will make one more effort at deception, transferring responsibility to those who formerly served them. They'll say they were misunderstood, that their intentions were pure, and that others drove them to make actions they later regret. But by then, no one would believe them. The same strategies they used to undermine you, namely falsehoods, distortion, and character assassination, will be utilized against them by their own friends. The technology they designed to bring you down will become the same mechanism that destroys them. And when these admissions come out, your vindication will not be subtle. It'll be overpowering. Every untruth said about you will be exposed as a reflection of their own inadequacies. Every charge they make will backfire and strike them as deflection. The defects they attempted to blame on you will be shown to reside solely in themselves. Their fake narrative required them to delete your actual character, discount your true accomplishments, and create reasons that did not exist. However, the truth eventually surfaces, and when stated by individuals who never respected honesty in the first place, it takes on much more significance. They never planned to convey the most crucial fact of all, just how exceptional you are. The enormity of their attempts to kill you demonstrates your importance. The fact that they commit so much time, energy, and coordination to constructing falsehoods about you in order to recruit people, manufacture tales, and develop a campaign against you demonstrates the strength of your true self and the danger it poses to their fake world. They frightened you because sincerity cannot be managed, and your very presence exposed the frailty of their whole fiction. This vindication, however, goes beyond just clearing your name. It's a live example of the stark difference between genuine power and manufactured influence. While others played political games and spent their lives creating false narratives, you just existed as yourself. That sincerity, unshakable and unmodified, was more potent than every strategy combined. And now, as their empire of falsehoods crumbles, the world will realize that what they attempted to conceal has grown stronger in the shadows. This is where your chosen nature shines the greatest. This hardship has not broken you. It has not weakened you. It is altered. You were tested in the fires of injustice. You escaped not just unscathed, but transformed into something better than before. You now have a valuable present, the capacity to see through facades immediately. You detect tampering before it takes root. You can tell the difference between true and transactional interactions. You know who supports you when the story is uncertain, and who has the audacity to tell the truth when lying is easier. The qualities you've developed throughout this trauma, such as strong observation, sharp pattern identification, emotional resilience, and strategic thinking, are more than just survival tools. They are the markers of change. You are no longer merely someone who has weathered the storm. You are someone who has learned to read the winds, to recognize patterns in chaos, and to transform what was intended to destroy into a foundation of unbreakable strength. Each hardship has prepared you. Every betrayal sharpened you. And each false charge has simply emphasized the indisputable truth. You were selected, and no plot, lie, or conspiracy can ever erase the truth. They are not only lessons you learned along the road. These are permanent abilities, spiritual tools, and inner technology that will benefit you for the rest of your life. What was intended to demolish you has instead developed you. Adversity has transformed you in ways that most people cannot comprehend. Hardship became your instructor. Betrayal became your training field, and injustice served as a fire to polish your insight. You did not merely endure this trauma. You transformed into a version of yourself that is stronger, smarter, and more resilient than ever before. You've learned to fully trust your own judgment. When others around you maintained that you were mistaken about yourself, you stood fast on your truth. When the social environment gaslighted you by bending your reality and attempting to destabilize your mind, you anchored yourself in what you knew to be true. That unflinching self-trust is not only unusual, but also important. It implies that no matter what storms come your way, you will never be driven away from your center by the cacophony of other people's perspectives. You know who you are, and this self-knowledge has become unshakable. As the dust settles and the truth becomes clear, your whole social environment will shift. The individuals who formerly participated in your character assassination will be revealed, their reputations tarnished by their own acts. They will be discredited and pushed to the sidelines. Their credibility crumbled. Those who have stayed neutral, too afraid to support you or too careful to stand in integrity, will be exposed as weak. Their silence was revealed as complicity. And those few who stood by you in the dark, knowing that their presence entailed danger, will be exposed as persons of genuine integrity, deserving of your long-term confidence. This isn't just vindication. It is purification. Your social circle is being cleared of opportunists, manipulators, and cowards. You are no longer bound to a relationship based on convenience or deceptive appearances. You no longer waste emotional energy on those who are easily influenced into turning against you. What remains after the washing is priceless. A network of genuine ties based on honesty, respect, and loyalty. Every new connection you make from now on will be stronger, more authentic, and more beneficial to your soul. The transition will be obvious. People will see you differently, not just because the falsehoods about you have been revealed, but also because of how you conducted yourself while under assault. They will respect how you held firm in your integrity, never lost sight of your genuineness, and weathered a storm without crumbling. Your reputation will not only be restored, it will be reinforced and increased by resilience. You will be remembered not just for your gifts, but also for your strength, perseverance, and capacity to embody truth in the face of deception. Those characteristics are uncommon, and they compel respect that no fabricated image could ever purchase. And the most powerful aspect of it all, you never had to sacrifice yourself to get to this position. You didn't have to fall to their level or use their strategies to live. You did not need to deceive, manipulate, or ruin others to win. You remained faithful. In the end, the truth became your triumph. That's what makes it so rewarding. You overcame not by becoming like them, but by refusing to accept that the gifts you received throughout this process are permanent. You've developed the capacity to see through facades almost immediately. You can detect tampering before it takes root. With only one conversation, you can detect the difference between true and transactional relationships. You now know who actually supports you when the narrative is dubious, and who is willing to defend the truth. When falsehoods get louder, The abilities developed in this fire observation, pattern identification, emotional resilience, and strategic thinking are more than just survival tools. They are lifetime abilities. They will influence the way you navigate all environments, from personal connections to professional settings. From spiritual development to community leadership, they enhance your effectiveness, discernment, and appeal to those who value integrity. You have been tried in the fire of injustice, and instead of being consumed, you have been hardened like steel. Every betrayal turned into a sharpening stone. Every false charge presented a chance to improve your grasp on the truth. Every disappointment served as a filter for determining who truly cared about you. The outcome is not only vindication, but elevation. You are no longer who you were before this happened. You're wiser, stronger, and clearer than ever. You are not just restored. You are reborn with spiritual, mental, and emotional superpowers that will guide you for the rest of your life. You did not have to lie, scheme, or manipulate. You did not need to manipulate stories, stage performances, or create shadows in the minds of others. All you had to do was stand firm in your truth, and that truth would be their undoing. Their own tactics had been poisoned. Chalice. The seeds of their demise were planted in the ways they used to harm you. Every act of treachery was included inside it. The certainty of their own treachery. Every manipulation weakened their basis until nothing held it together. What ruined them were not your actions, but the inevitable consequences of their decisions. This is the difference between fleeting victories and long-term strategic success. They obtained temporary successes by lying. However, deceit always has an expiry date. Their manipulative empire lacked roots, anchors, and endurance. Meanwhile, you create something that cannot be demolished since it was built on a solid basis of honesty. Integrity is timeless, and it always prevails in the great arc of justice. The chosen do not triumph by becoming mirrors of their adversaries. They triumph by exhibiting such profound honesty that their adversaries are unable to resist their own mirror. Your light did not only reveal their gloom, it increased their blindness. They were so focused on your demise that they didn't perceive the cracks growing under their own feet. They interpreted your quietness for weakness, your tolerance with naivety. Your silence represents capitulation. But, in reality, your restraint was the driving factor behind their downfall. The storm became louder, but the eye remained calm. And I was you. Think back to the beginning. You stood impenetrable, in the midst of their cyclone, seeing mayhem escalate but remaining unshaken. That formerly private photograph is now available for anyone to see. Everyone can see what you already knew. Their storm has no effect over your foundation. Their story has crumbled into evidence. Every charge is a mirror that reflects their own depravity. Their machinations expose only their genuine character. Their carefully crafted mask has been peeled away, revealing desperation, greed, and weakness. And here's where you stand. Chosen. This experience has established it without any question. You resisted their most violent assaults while maintaining your sanity when they attempted to warp your reality. When they maintained that you were the issue, you stood firm in your integrity. You defended your true tale when they attempted to change it for you. What was designed to destroy you has instead honed and shaped you into steel. Their storm has passed, and you emerge not merely unscathed, but elevated, stronger, wiser, and brighter than before. Their confession is approaching. Their story is unfolding. The walls of quiet are crumbling, and the weight of buried shame is compelling them to confess. And with each discovery, your justification grows. You didn't just withstand their onslaught. You transformed it into your victory. This is a sign of being selected. You do not escape challenges. Rather, you alter them. You don't avoid falsehoods. Rather, you outshine them until they disintegrate into truth. Not that you never have adversaries, but that you vanquish them not by battling in the dirt, but by standing so solid in your identity that they ruin themselves and their efforts to approach you. The false narrative they constructed about you has crumbled like ash in the wind. Your honest narrative, the one you carried bravely when no one believed you, now shines brighter, clearer, and more appealing than ever. And that tale does not just vindicate you. It rewards you with triumph. You are not simply free of allegations. You are elevated above them, altered by them, and characterized not by what they attempted to do to you, but by how you triumphed. You have been vindicated. You are triumphant. Most importantly, you are unshakable, undeniably picked. That's all for today. Dear Father, I pray for the deepening of my faith. Please let me believe you even when there is no tangible proof. Let me believe in your eternal presence, knowing that you will never hurt me. I realize that your intentions for me are ones of success rather than harm, in order to provide me with a bright future. Thank you. Thank you, kind and everlasting Father, for always hearing my voice. I give this prayer to you in Jesus' name. Amen. Thank you, Jesus, for your love and provisions. I am thankful for your presence in my life and the richness you provide. If this video spoke to you, please subscribe to the channel and share it with others who need to hear this message. Leave a comment below about your trip and how you're getting ready for your own victorious homecoming. If you want to help us out, please consider making a donation. Buy me a coffee. This allows us to consistently improve our content in order to provide you with the best possible experience. The link to buy me a coffee is in the description. No present is too tiny. Whether it's a penny, a prayer, or a share, your generosity spreads God's message and gives people hope. Do not stop here. Watch our next video for amazing insights into the indicators that indicate you are the chosen one. We've loved sharing this spiritual journey with you. Thank you for sticking with us until the finish. Keep shining brightly and face your fate with confidence. See you next time. The God Connection sends its blessings to all lovely individuals.